Welcome to Pimmy's Creations, and you are now in our backyard garden. As you can see, it is winter. It's December, and we are coming out to harvest the last of what we had. I have curly leaf kale here that we're going to can. We've been harvesting for the last couple months and eating on them fresh. And we're going to get this kale out of here and can it and preserve it so we have it for later use. It is very curly, and it has a big hard ribbed stem through the center that we are going to have to remove. So what we are going to do is harvest this all, put it in our baskets, and then we're going to take it inside, trim it up, and wash it real good before we start cooking it to put it in our jars. We're going to do it two methods today. We're going to use some turkey stock that I canned from Thanksgiving, and we're going to be using some water. All you want to do is just trim everything off at the base, get it in, and you want to wash it out in your sink real good. We're filling up our baskets. I'm going to have to take them in, start the washing, and come back out and get the rest. We are now in the house. We have picked all our kale, and we're going to start the cleaning process to get rid of the dirt. Bugs love plants. Bugs eat plants, and when you pick them and bring them in, you sometimes bring those bugs into the house. What I do is I fill my sink up and I let the kale soak in batches for a little while. Rustle it around, make sure we knock everything off. All the dirt will settle to the bottom. Put it in the water and let it soak a little bit. A good rinse is not going to hurt it. It's going to help it. Then once it's soaked in here for a while and you've got it clean, you bring it to the other side of the sink with a rinse off, because even though you've soaked it, the water's gotten dirty and it's floating around. You want to just give it a good quick rinse before you take it and put it in your pot to cook it. There are multiple ways that you can cook this. You can steam it, you can boil it. We're going to boil ours today, and when we can it, we're going to be doing it two methods: water, and I have a jar, 1 quart of turkey stock. We're going to do some jars with water, some with the turkey stock. I'm going to cook these down and I'm going to boil them. I'm not going to steam them. But we are not going to can these veggies in the water we cook them in. We're going to have a pot of hot water, and we're going to have the hot stock ready to go. We will pull the cooked kale out, put it in the jars, and then top the jars off with our fluid that we want to can it with. I use my hands. Pull it off. You want to use a knife? You can use a knife. I don't use a knife. I just pull it all off by hand. While I'm doing this, we'll talk a little bit about the canning. We are going to be canning this kale at 10 pounds of pressure for our altitude. You need to get the manual for your canner and look up the directions and follow the specific directions for your canner for your altitude. If you do not know the altitude where you are, you can look it up on the internet and then just follow the pound canning instructions. Just remember, you need to make sure everything is sterile. Wash your jars. Hot water, soapy water. Rinse them good so you don't have soap left in the jars, and make sure that you wash your rings and especially your lids. Cleanliness is a must when you are canning. You've grown this food or you've went to the store and you're canning it to preserve it to feed your family. The last thing you want to do is open that jar up and it smells horrible because it is spoiled, because you didn't can it properly. Okay, as you can see here, I've got some pots started. I am going to boil my kale down. As it cooks, it's going to reduce down. You're going to need a whole lot of kale to fill jars. 4 pounds of kale for 1 quart jar. Now that seems like a lot, but when you cook this, it reduces down and shrinks down, and a big old pot turns into a little bitty handful. This is turkey stock, but this is a quart jar. So somehow they say you'll fit 4 pounds of kale in this jar. The size of jars you want to use is going to depend on the size of your family. I'm putting these in pint jars today because it's just me and my wife that will eat it. This canner we have right here, I can put 10 pints or 7 quarts in it. Now you can get canners that are double stacks. This obviously, with my microwave, I don't have the room for a canner that tall. When you put water in your canner, read the manual. The last thing you want to happen when you're canning is this thing to go dry. And when you are canning, you want to use canning salt only. For our pint jars, we are going to be processing them for 70 minutes. Quart jars would be 90 minutes. And I am only going to put a teaspoon of salt in the jars where we can with water. The jars I can with the turkey stock, I will not be adding salt because there's already salt from the turkey. Okay, our kale is cooking down and it's almost ready to get into the jars. So now I'm going to start warming up the liquid that we're going to can it in. If you want to use the liquid that you cooked it down in, you can. I find that sometimes it can be overpowering the veggie and the cooked broth, so we like to change it up, give it a little fresh, because I'm going to put salt in the water jars and then the turkey stock will add flavoring to the other. We have all our jars ready. They have been sanitized, washed with hot soapy water, rinsed out thoroughly. We have also washed our rings and we have washed our lids. They are about to go in that pressure canner for 70 minutes. Okay, our first pot. Here is our cooked down kale. Almost lost one. As you can see, it's nice and soft and it has wilted down. This pot before was all the way to the top and mounded a little over, and as it was cooking we were adding more as it was shrinking down. We are going to start by getting our clean funnel, placing it in, and start using the tongs to a little bit at a time get the greens in there. Now you don't want air bubbles in these, and we are going to debubble them. I have a very nice chopstick that I like to use once I get these in and get the water in, to poke it around, stir it, and make sure any air bubbles in the jar come up to the top. You want to make sure you leave headspace in these jars. You do not fill them to the top. Rule of thumb for me on all jars is on the jar right here, and let me bring it a little closer for you. There is a little rib right here that juts out. I bring everything to that and no higher. That leaves that amount of space and gives it room to vacuum the air out and seal everything up real good. We are at the stage where we are going to start putting the liquid into the jars. I have my debubbler. It's a nice hard plastic chopstick. And we have the turkey stock from Thanksgiving. Man, is it good. So, I got my funnel. After it's in the vinegar to wipe down the rims with, funnel in. And now we put the fluid in the jars. And as you can see, with all of the kale that's in there, it doesn't take much to fill it up, but you can see the bubbles. It's just a little more in there. There you go, inch of headspace right there. We're going to put the fluid in all these jars. Once everything is complete and we are ready to wipe down the rims and put the lids on, we will come back. Okay, I have all the fluid in my jars. Right up here to the first rim, little offset rim, we've taken the stick, went down in and poked everything real good. Make sure these 5 over here are with the turkey stock, and these 5 over here are with water. I added a teaspoon of salt into these 5 jars over here also. What we're doing here is called hot pack method. There's cold pack where you put everything cold in the canner with cold water, and then there's hot pack. the water in the canner is heating up and all of the liquid in the jars here is hot. You don't want to put cold jars in hot water. You'll get cracked glass. Okay? Now we are wiping everything down real good, making sure. A little bit of vinegar. We put the lid on. You want to hand tighten the ring. No more. Good. Snug tight. Put these all on. We're going to finish putting all these rings and lids on, and then we will let you see them go in the canner. Hot jars, hot canner. This is a jar grabber. Please use one so you don't get burned. Grab it. Down in the jar, and the canner goes. Jar in the canner. Now, because I'm using two different kinds of liquid, obviously I'm going to have to remember where I put what. Like I said, this is a 21 quart Presto canner. I can fit 10 pints, 7 quarts. Our jars are all settled in the canner here, and as you can see, I have plenty of water in here. I always do it water halfway up the jar. 70 minutes is a long time, and you're going to have steam coming out of this canner. That means moisture is escaping, which means your water level is going to drop. Now the lid's going to go on the canner. On the inside here, you can see a rubber seal. Make sure it's in there all the way. This is your emergency release. This is the lock. Once the pressure builds up, that is going to pop up. When you are done cooking, let this come down to pressure on its own. Do not push the release. Don't do anything to it. Don't move it over to the sink and put cold water on it. Just let it go on its own. You got arrow on a lid, arrow on your handle. You line up the arrows, turn the lid to it, and it is locked. Now what's going to happen is, I have this, it's going to come to boil, and it's going to start seeing steam come out the vent pipe. Once I have a steady stream of steam, I set my timer for 10 minutes. Do not put your weight on here until after that 10 minutes. Then once you put the weight on, you will wait until the weight starts rocking. You will then set your timer for the allotted amount of time based on what size jars you're doing. Pint jars, 70 minutes, not until it's dancing. Okay, we're at the point now where the vent pipe is shooting steam and our lock is about to start popping up too, so a little steam's coming out of there, but that's alright. I'm setting my timer for 10 minutes. I'm going to let it bend 10 minutes, and then the weight goes on. Now, as we said, weights, 10 pounds of pressure. There's 3 weights here. This is 5 pounds. This is 10 pounds. These are what I am using for my altitude. 10 pounds. If I was above 1,000 feet, I would have to go with 15 pounds, but I'm not. My altitude is 10 pounds of pressure. These are my weights. We are to the point, it's been 10 minutes, and now it's time to put the jiggler weight on the vent pipe. Now, we're going to run these for 70 minutes after that starts dancing. You don't want it really dancing hard. It's going to be a nice, easy rocking motion. So, once it starts rocking and we get to that point, we'll give you a look at it. We'll set our timer for 70 minutes, and then we'll come back when the process is done. As you can see, the weight is jiggling now. You don't want it to jiggle any more than that. I had it on medium high to get it to pressure, and now I have turned it down on the heat so that I can maintain this jiggle. This lets me know I'm at my 10 pounds of pressure, and we are now setting 70 minutes. We will see you when we pull the jars out. The canning process is done. The jiggler is no longer moving, and the lock has dropped. Moment of truth. Still bubbling. These are smoking hot still. These are the turkey stock. There's a water. I'm going to take the rest of these out and then we'll get a look at all the jars. We have all of our jars out, and as you can see, they're still bubbling. They will bubble for another 15-20 minutes, sometimes even longer. The lids will start popping here in about 3 to 5 minutes. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative. Please hit the bell, like, subscribe. Thank you for watching.